Welcome to Have You Read It, the channel where we bring books to life, one summary at a time. Whether you're here for self-help, personal growth, or business inspiration, there's something for everyone. Today, we're diving into What You Do is Who You Are, How to Create Your Business Culture by Ben Horowitz. This book isn't your typical business manual filled with fluffy mission statements and generic values. Instead, Horowitz takes a hard-hitting, practical approach to culture building, drawing inspiration from some truly unexpected sources. A revolutionary, a warrior, a reformed gang leader, and a tech icon. Let's start with the basics. Horowitz argues that culture is not about perks like free lunches or motivational posters. It's not even about your stated company values. It's about the actual behaviors and decisions your employees make every single day, especially when you're not there. It's the invisible operating system that drives your company. He emphasizes that if you don't intentionally build your culture, it will build itself, and the results might be disastrous. Horowitz realized this firsthand during his time as CEO of LoudCloud. A manager he'd initially viewed positively turned out to be a compulsive liar. The problem wasn't just the manager's dishonesty. It was that his behavior became normalized within the company, unintentionally creating a culture where lying was acceptable. This experience became a crucial object lesson for Horowitz. To understand how to build a strong culture, Horowitz looked to historical figures who were masters of influencing behavior. His first example is Toussaint Louverture, the leader of the only successful slave revolt in history, the Haitian Revolution. Louverture, born into slavery, managed to transform a broken, oppressed culture into a powerful force capable of defeating European superpowers. Pretty remarkable, right? How did Louverture accomplish this? Horowitz identifies several key tactics. First, he kept what worked. Louverture recognized the strengths of slave culture, like their rhythmic voodoo songs, and repurposed them for communication and coordination within his army. He also integrated existing military skills some of his soldiers brought with them from Africa. Another tactic was creating shocking rules. For example, he forbade married officers from having concubines, a common practice among soldiers at the time. This seemingly arbitrary rule emphasized the importance of keeping one's word, a crucial element for building trust within the army. Louverture also understood the power of appearances. He and his core revolutionaries dressed in elaborate military uniforms, a stark contrast to the typical attire of field slaves. This visual cue helped instill a sense of pride and elite identity within the rebel army. Critically, Louverture wasn't afraid to incorporate outside leadership. He brought in mulattoes and even French royalist officers, recognizing their military expertise and strategic thinking. He insisted that his troops work together despite their racial differences, saying, "How can you tell which is which? We must all live together." Louverture demonstrated his cultural priorities through his actions. Rather than seeking revenge on the plantation owners, he allowed them to live and even keep their land, on the condition that they pay their workers and treat them well. This counterintuitive decision prioritized the economic well-being of the colony above personal retribution. Louverture also walked the talk. He lived alongside his soldiers, sharing their hardships and leading from the front lines. Finally, he made ethics explicit, emphasizing integrity and discipline within his army. This created a culture starkly different from the typical ruthlessness of European armies at the time. He even ordered his starving army to share food with impoverished white women, solidifying his reputation as a man of principle. Unfortunately, despite Louverture's genius, his revolution ultimately faced a tragic end. He was betrayed by his second-in-command, Dessalines, and died imprisoned in France. However, Louverture's legacy continued to inspire, as his army, now led by Dessalines, ultimately defeated Napoleon's forces and secured Haiti's independence. Horowitz then explores how Louverture's tactics can be applied in the modern business world. Steve Jobs' return to Apple is a prime example of keeping what works. Instead of following the prevailing wisdom to abandon hardware and license their operating system, Jobs doubled down on Apple's core strength: integrating hardware and software. He drastically simplified their product line, focusing on delivering exceptional user experiences. The concept of shocking rules is illustrated by examples like Tom Coughlin's Coughlin time at the New York Giants, where being on time meant being 5 minutes early, and Diane Green's insistence on 49-51 partnerships at VMware, demonstrating a willingness to prioritize partner relationships. At Amazon, door desks and the ban on PowerPoint presentations reinforce frugality and deep thinking, respectively. Mark Zuckerberg's move fast and break things at Facebook prioritized speed in the early days, while Marissa Mayer's ban on working from home at Yahoo aimed to instill a culture of hard work. Horowitz describes his own experience of incorporating outside leadership at Opsware, hiring Mark Cranny, whose aggressive East Coast sales style clashed with Opsware's laid-back engineering culture. Despite initial friction, Cranny's leadership proved essential in transforming Opsware into a successful enterprise software company. The importance of making decisions that demonstrate cultural priorities is highlighted by Reed Hastings' decision to exclude DVD executives from key meetings at Netflix, signaling a decisive shift towards streaming. And when it comes to walking the talk, Horowitz points to the missteps of Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign, where her personal use of a private email server undermined the campaign's explicit emphasis on security, leading to a damaging hack. He argues that Clinton's actions, not her words, set the tone and created a vulnerability. He also discusses Travis Kalanick's Uber, where an overly aggressive win-at-all-costs culture led to ethical breaches, and ultimately Kalanick's ouster. Horowitz's next cultural model is the samurai of ancient Japan and their code of Bushido, the way of the warrior. The samurai focused on virtues, actions lived out, rather than just values or beliefs. A key aspect of Bushido was the constant contemplation of death. This wasn't about morbid obsession, it was about recognizing the fragility of life and performing every action with intention and excellence. The samurai prioritized 8 core virtues: rectitude, courage, benevolence, politeness, honor, loyalty, self-control, and veracity. These virtues weren't isolated concepts, they worked together as a system. For example, honor, seen as the immortal part of the self, was balanced by politeness, the profound expression of love and respect, and veracity, the commitment to truthfulness. To ensure the longevity of their culture, the samurai detailed every possible ethical dilemma and reinforced their code with vivid stories. Horowitz draws parallels to modern businesses, highlighting how he applied the samurai's action-oriented approach to building a culture of respect for entrepreneurs at Andreessen Horowitz. He also discusses how shocking rules, like fining employees for being late to meetings with entrepreneurs, can reinforce cultural priorities. He shares anecdotes from Cisco and Netscape, demonstrating the power of stories and sayings in shaping behavior. Shifting gears from ancient warriors to a modern-day one, Horowitz introduces Shaka Senghor, a former prison gang leader who transformed himself and his organization. Senghor entered prison at 19, convicted of murder, and quickly adapted to the violent, predatory culture. He joined the Melanics, a prison gang with a code emphasizing self-determination and education. Senghor rose through the ranks, eventually becoming the gang's leader. He enforced the Melanics code, focusing on loyalty, discipline, and treating members with respect. However, a violent incident forced Senghor to confront the unintended consequences of his leadership. He realized that he'd built a culture of savagery, despite his initial good intentions. This realization led to a personal and cultural transformation. Senghor began emphasizing empathy, forgiveness, and personal responsibility within his gang. He organized classes on emotional intelligence and trauma, recognizing the importance of addressing the root causes of violence. He used constant contact, requiring members to eat, work out, and study together to reinforce these cultural changes. Horowitz draws several lessons from Senghor's experience. First, a leader's perspective on culture is often not the reality experienced by employees. It's crucial to understand how new employees behave and what they perceive as necessary for survival and success within the organization. Second, you must build culture from first principles, questioning the default culture of your industry or ecosystem and intentionally designing one that aligns with your company's specific mission. Horowitz also emphasizes that culture is universal. It doesn't stay within the office walls. The way you treat external partners will inevitably influence how employees treat each other. He discusses examples of weaponizing the culture, like employees at Slack using the value of empathy to deflect criticism. Finally, Horowitz shares his own experience of having to change himself in order to change his company's culture. He recounts a situation where he was tempted to misrepresent financial numbers, but his general counsel challenged his thinking, leading to a stronger emphasis on transparency and ethical accounting practices. The next figure Horowitz examines is Genghis Khan, the brilliant military leader who built the largest contiguous land empire in history. Khan, born into a small nomadic tribe, faced hardship and betrayal early in life. These experiences shaped his leadership philosophy, which prioritized meritocracy, loyalty, and, surprisingly, inclusion. Khan's army was structured as a meritocracy, where talent and loyalty, not lineage, determined rank. He abolished inherited aristocratic titles, creating opportunities for anyone, even shepherds, to rise through the ranks. He also fostered loyalty by demonstrating his own commitment to his soldiers' well-being, sharing their hardships, and rewarding their service. Perhaps Khan's most innovative tactic was his embrace of inclusion. He incorporated conquered soldiers into his army, treating them as equals and often promoting them based on their abilities. This created a diverse, highly skilled fighting force that adapted and learned from every new conquest. He also valued the knowledge and skills of conquered populations, integrating scholars, engineers, and even doctors into his ranks. Horowitz then looks at modern applications of Khan's principles, focusing on inclusion in the workplace. He shares the story of Don Thompson, the first African-American CEO of McDonald's, who rose through the ranks by embracing his differences and building relationships. Thompson emphasizes the importance of seeing individuals for their unique strengths rather than focusing on race or background. He advocates for creating a truly inclusive environment where everyone feels valued and can contribute their best work. Maggie Wilderotter, former CEO of Frontier Communications, provides another example of inclusive leadership. She dismantled the company's rigid class system, empowering frontline workers and fostering collaboration between white-collar and blue-collar employees. Horowitz argues that true inclusion means seeing people for their individual talents, not their demographic categories. He criticizes the common practice of delegating inclusion efforts to heads of diversity, who often focus on meeting quotas rather than fostering genuine cultural change. He encourages leaders to design their hiring processes to identify talent from diverse pools, emphasizing skills and abilities rather than background. In the final chapters, Horowitz brings together the lessons from his diverse cast of characters and offers practical advice for building your own company culture. He emphasizes the importance of being yourself, aligning your culture with your personality and strategy. He also discusses the challenges of managing subcultures within a company, recognizing that different functions, like sales and engineering, often require distinct cultural norms. He urges leaders to specify the qualities they seek in employees, creating a hiring profile that reflects their desired culture. And finally, he suggests making "what you do must matter" a universal element of any strong culture. In Chapter 9, Horowitz explores edge cases, where cultural principles can break down or conflict with each other. He gives examples of customer obsession leading to stagnation, like RIM's failure to adapt to the iPhone, and how rigidly adhering to cultural rules can be counterproductive. He also discusses the challenges of managing difficult employees or culture breakers, categorizing them as heretics, flakes, jerks, and prophets of rage. Chapter 10 focuses on 3 essential cultural virtues: trust, openness to bad news, and loyalty. He stresses the importance of being honest with employees, even during difficult times, and offers advice on how to assign meaning to bad news without demoralizing the team. He also suggests building a culture that encourages open communication about problems and rewards loyalty and ethical behavior. So, what are the main takeaways from "What You Do Is Who You Are"? Culture is action, not aspiration. It's about the behaviors you reward, not the values you write on the wall. Your culture is your operating system. It drives decisions when you're not there. Design it intentionally. See people for who they are. Focus on talent and character, not background or demographics. Ethics are a long-term investment. They might cost you in the short run, but they're crucial for building a sustainable organization. Walk the talk. Your actions speak louder than your words. Live the culture you want to create. Thanks for watching. Have you read it? Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next book dive.